Hey guys, Bill Spadea here. Welcome to my new streaming live show, taking your calls, called Common Ground. It's great to be here. We are going to restore liberty and prosperity to the Garden State and to this entire country. The worst case in America is better than the best case in many countries around this world. So we got to be thankful to be Americans. We've got to fight for it. And my commitment to you is I'm going to use that position, I'm going to use that power to help empower you and make our community stronger, make our business community stronger, empower our parents, empower our nurses and our teachers and our janitors and our bus drivers and our lawyers and doctors and patients and nurses and dental hygienists and everyone in between, from the over-the-road to the regional and local truck drivers to the folks that are stacking shelves at Walmart. Every one of you deserves a voice because you're an American. Hey guys, Bill Spadea here. Welcome back to our streaming live show, Common Ground. Great to be back with you. As you know, you can now find us on the Amazon Fire TV. You can find us on New Jersey, which is a streaming service that goes through your Roku TV. So happy to be with you. We're expanding the audience. Remember, if you're watching on Rumble, if you're watching on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you are finding us, like it, share it, let others know, because the audience is getting big. We're going to try to rival our morning show, which, as you know, is the biggest audience in the state. Thank you for being here. Common Ground, common sense. I want to just start with a couple of things because I've got some very exciting guests today that I want to bring in to talk to you about restoring common sense, not just in New Jersey, but across the country. First of all, we've talked about this for a while. And I brought you this, I believe it was last week, we talked about the fact that there are 6,000 schools, public schools across this country that are hiding children's gender identity from their parents. That means 6,000 schools. A kid can go to school as young as 7, 8 years old, decide that they want to identify as another gender, and the school doesn't tell the parents. Now, we've gotten to a state where it's disruptive, it's destructive, and what happens is the advocates for this gender confusion will tell you this is about tolerance. They'll tell you that it's not fair, that there are kids who are generally confused and we need to help them get over that. And if you don't help them, suicides rise, bullying rises, all of these things. Guys, I am here to tell you that is utter nonsense. Utter nonsense. Children are confused by nature. I remember my son when he was, I'm going to say 2, maybe 3, thought he was a dinosaur. We actually had a babysitter that was happy to eat on the floor with him because he was a dinosaur. Now, we did not discourage or encourage. We're like, you know what? It's okay. Kids pretend, kids decide what they want to be, and they end up growing up. Here's the problem. When you attack something as basic as gender, when you say that biology does not matter, when you say that there are no longer men and there are no longer women, that everything is fluid, you are now taking a child who just a minute ago was hoping that Santa Claus was going to come down the chimney and deliver them presents, and you're saying, maybe you were born in the wrong body. Absolutely outrageous. We are driving a mental illness in this country, and we're not just damaging children, we're hurting adults. Let's talk about adult sports, women and men. There is a reason why women and men are separated when it comes to sports. They're built differently. They have different levels of ability on different sports and different competitions. There is a reason why women compete against women and men compete against men. And guys, there's nothing wrong with it. This is not discrimination. This is not segregation. This is a logical, common sense separation, which allows people in both sides, on both sexes, to excel in the sports that they're good at. Now, one young woman, you know her name. Her name is Riley Gaines. She's from the University of Kentucky. She was a 7-time state champion in high school in Tennessee as a swimmer. Went on to be a champion swimmer at the University of Kentucky and was competing to be the top swimmer in the United States. One problem. She was forced to compete against, well, I'm going to say this. The newspapers, the press, the media will always say biological male. It's okay to say they put a guy in the girls' swim competition and he won. No kidding. It wasn't fair. It wasn't right. Now, our next guest, Riley Gaines, is saying, you know what? I'm going to speak out about it. I'm going to say something about it. And I'm so proud to bring her into the show to meet you. Riley, welcome to Common Ground. How are you?
I'm amazing. Thank you so much for having me on.
So tell me, let's go back a minute. At what point, I mean, here you are a champion. You're a great athlete. You have excelled at every level. You're in the competition to become the swim champion of the country with the NCAA. And when did you find out you were going to be competing against a guy?
So about midway through my senior season, which was last year, so about November of 2021, all of a sudden this person comes out of nowhere. And of course, this person is Leah Thomas, who we now know is, and I love what you said about adding the term biological. It's so silly, right?
Ridiculous.
Leah Thomas is a male, but
Yes.
at the time we had no idea. At the time, we thought this was a female from University of Pennsylvania who was ranking first in the nation in multiple events by multiple seconds. There was so many red flags. We then very quickly found out that this was formerly Will Thomas, who swam 3 years on the men's side at University of Pennsylvania, at best ranking 462nd nationally, again, before trailing or before dominating the women.
Right.
But it wasn't until about 3 weeks before our national championships in March of 2022, before the NCAA announced that Thomas would, in fact, be competing with the women.
How did your teammates take it? I mean, here you are, you're with a bunch of professional women who, and I say professional in the sense of taking the craft serious, the training, the diet, all the things that you do. I mean, we've had friends and sons and daughters of friends who are swimmers. It is intense. It is an intense sport. The training that goes in, the time you get up in the morning, the calorie intake you've got to have, the amount of time in the water. I mean, it's intense. And what were the other women on your team at the university? What were they saying? Was there a buzz about this, or was everybody afraid and walking on eggshells?
They felt the exact same way that I'm communicating my message to you. On my team at University of Kentucky, there's about 40 girls, so it's a pretty big team, right?
Yeah.
38 girls felt the exact same how I'm communicating to you.
Yeah.
2 did not, and those 2 are in fact dating each other, if that says anything.
Got it. Right? They
But
didn't care, right? Although
Yeah.
I have heard, Riley, and tell me if I'm incorrect, that Leah Thomas has been described the same way, that even though he is now a transgender woman, he is attracted to women. So does that make him a lesbian? I'm trying to keep up with what's going on today.
It's really confusing. You're exactly right. Leah Thomas is actually, at the time that Leah Thomas was sharing a locker room with us,
Yeah.
fully equipped and exposing male genitalia,
Ridiculous.
he was still active with women, considering himself a lesbian. But now, Leah Thomas is now dating another male to female transitioner. So 2 men, but they call themselves lesbians. If
So
you can even follow.
two men are now it is so ridiculous.
If you can even follow.
Right, it's become a circus. I mean, I think there was a Monty Python movie or episode about the same thing. Just that, like at some point, you can't just say, I want to be a woman, therefore I'm a woman. You can't do, like
No.
this whole idea. We've changed all the terminology. We have birthing parents now instead of mothers. I mean, it's gotten out of control. Let's take a step back, because you're a brave young woman to be out there, and what you're doing is common sense. If you go back 5-10 years, most people would have said, without even thinking about it, obviously this guy, the dude Leah Thomas, should not be competing in a woman's sport. It's absurd. Today, though, it gets a little tricky, and all of a sudden there's cancel culture. There's people attacking you. Have you been under that kind of fire? And what has been your experience in the last year?
I have. I can truthfully say, though, from my university, I could not have received more support, at least from the
That's great.
athletic side. The academia side is a little different, but from the athletic side, my athletic director, and now looking back, I'm realizing how much of a role God played in placing me at the University of Kentucky. I always thought I was going to go to the University of Florida and be a Florida Gator. But I
Yeah.
could not have had more support from my athletic director, Mitch Barnhart, and my coach, Lars Jorgensen. And I always try to say their name because I think it's really important. I think it speaks volumes about my school and the Southeastern Conference, but that is not the case for any other girl that I've talked to, especially Leah Thomas's teammates. They've told me what they went through on a daily basis. And of course, they've communicated to me privately. They were forced to go to mandatory LGBTQ meetings every week to learn about how they were oppressing Leah Thomas solely by being cisgender. I hate that word, but
It's a
solely
ridiculous
by being
term.
cisgender.
Right.
They were forced to actually, when they sent an email to their administration expressing their feelings of uncomfort in the locker room, their administration responded back with, if you feel uncomfortable seeing male genitalia, here are some counseling resources that you should seek. They were told that their
That's amazing.
school has taken their stance for them, so they could not use their voice. They were told, you will never get into grad school, you will never get a job, you will lose your friends if you speak out, you will lose playing time, you won't be able to keep your scholarship if you use your voice. So these girls did not have the same experience I had, and the experience I had is truthfully an anomaly.
Yeah. What inspired you to fight back? What was the final straw? Was it standing on that platform with the other girls and you're looking at this dude who's towering over everyone? I mean, clear guy, not... I mean, it's almost an insult. Honestly, Riley, to me, it's an insult to that very tiny percentage of the population. It's an infinitesimal number, but there are people that suffer from gender dysphoria. There's no question that this is a mental disorder. I can't even imagine. You got to pray for someone who doesn't think they're in the right body. That's a serious thing. This is an outrage. Here's a loser who could not compete among men, decides I'm just going to be the best woman. I mean, how are feminists putting up with this?
The feminist groups have gone one of two ways, one of which is, of course, standing in their original intent of why the feminist movement was created, which is empowering women, real women. And then we have the other side of the feminist group, which is, of course, your Billie Jean Kings, who was once a trailblazer for women's sports, and Megan Rapinoe, who are now actively advocating for trans inclusion in women's sports, and really bigger than just women's sports. Women's spaces, our awards, all of that. It's bigger than sports. And so the feminist movement has gone one of two ways, but it's kind of incredible because throughout this whole process, there are actually some lifelong liberal women who are now so fed up with the liberals and the left because, I mean, we even have a sitting Supreme Court justice who can't say what a woman is.
That was so disgraceful.
How crazy. And these women are seeing this, and this is a hill they're willing to die on. So this is truthfully a winning issue for the Republicans. I mean,
I agree.
There was a recent poll that said even 60 to 70% of Democrats don't believe men should be in women's sports. And so this is a winning issue. This is
one of those things, Riley, that you use the term that I get attacked for all the time, but I use the term, wait for it, I don't want to offend you, normal. Normal. We want to fight for normal. It's common sense. It's okay that some things are normal and some things are abnormal. And the idea that we would normalize a male athlete to decide he wants to be a woman and then go and wreak havoc in women's sports. But even beyond that, the potential danger of having a guy, I mean, the absurdity of a man pretending to be a woman and then keeping his attraction to women and saying he's a lesbian is so beyond the pale. This guy either is such a fraudster that he ought to be investigated, or he is mentally ill and needs help. I mean, it's one or the other. Right. But this is not normal behavior. It's not good. To your point, I'm glad you brought it up because the reality is this is one of the things that launched Glenn Youngkin, the new governor in Virginia, to victory in 2021. That God forbid, there was a horrible scene. A young woman was raped by someone pretending to be a girl, and the father was dragged out of the board meeting. It was a whole scene. But that was one of the reasons Glenn Youngkin was able to catapult to victory. And I think it's a great message to Republicans and Democrats. Whoever wants to be a senator, a Congress, member or a governor, you know what? You've got to address this because the normal
Absolutely.
Americans are not happy with this. What's next
No.
for you?
Well, my life plans that I thought I had were dental school. That's where I was supposed to be this year. I've reapplied for the fall. I've always thought I was going to pursue endodontics, which is root canals, weirdly enough.
Cool.
But clearly, I am not in dental school right now. And so I've really changed the direction I thought my life was going to go in because I realized dental school, dentistry, it will always be there.
Yeah.
But the importance and the relevancy behind this issue might not be. And you asked me what thrusted me into this position. And truthfully, my answer is I can't imagine. I just recently got married, and I can only
Congratulations.
hope one day. Thank you. I can only hope one day that I have a daughter, and I can't imagine being in the position that I'm in now and not fighting for her, not fighting for that future generation, not fighting for the past female athletes who fought relentlessly for Title IX, who now in their same lifetime are seeing those benefits being taken away, and not fighting for the present female athletes who are in my same position but have their voices suppressed. So that's what's encouraging me to continue standing in truth.
Real quick, we do have someone who wants to talk to you. I've got our call-in number is 973-891-4421. If you've got just another second, Riley, I'd love to have our callers join us. But before I get to that, let me just ask you, you know, what you can do is just identify as a dentist and just skip school. You don't need to do it today.
School.
Right. You don't need it. All right.
Just let me know.
That's it. All right. Let's go to Amy in Princeton. Hi, Amy. You're on Common Ground with Riley Gaines.
Hi, Bill. How are you?
Good. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Riley. So, Riley, I just
Hi.
wanted to tell you that I was someone who was actually on the other side of the issue. I really believe strongly that we should be inclusive, and I wanted to be kind, and I didn't see any problem with it. I didn't see how it could hurt anybody. Frankly, I didn't believe that anybody would actually really compete in women's sports. And it was actually what happened to you that changed my mind and made me feel differently. I just want to let you know that, so that as you're out there putting yourself on the line, you should know you have made a difference.
Well, that is exactly why I'm continuing to do what I'm doing. So I can't even tell you how much that means to me. I know how hard it is to stand up against the party that you've been associated with, even on a one-off issue like this one. And so I can't even tell you how much that means to me to hear it. So I just thank you, and I thank you for your bravery, because I know that's hard.
Oh, thank you, Amy. Appreciate that call. And thank you, Riley. Let me just say this. I hope that there, as you advocate and continue this, there will be congressional elections coming up in 2024. I'm hoping that your name is on a ballot, and one way or the other, you can count on support from New Jersey. You have got a lot of fans and friends here. This issue is such a serious thing that's happening in New Jersey. It's even, it's gone beyond, as I opened with earlier, as I opened up with, it's even beyond sports and competitiveness. It's gotten into the psyche of these young kids, and we have a spike in calls to the suicide hotline. We've got a spike in bullying incidents. So there's been this chaotic scene that's played out in our classrooms across the state, and it's happening to kids younger and younger and younger. Thankfully, there are leaders like you at the tip of the spear saying, you know what, enough is enough. It's okay to want to get back to some normalcy. And you know what, it's not normal, and it's not okay to have a naked guy walking around in the girls' locker room pretending he's a lesbian. Not okay.
No.
Not okay.
No. No.
All right, well, keep us posted, Riley. Thank you so much for joining me today. You are someone of courage. You've earned, I know, a lot of new fans today as well. Thanks for joining me.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, Riley, you take care. That was Riley Gaines, University of Kentucky. Congratulations to her on her new marriage. Keep an eye on this young woman. This is the kind of courage that we need, for all of us that have faced cancel culture. I mean, whether it is because your day job was threatened, whether that cancel culture was because you used the word normal, which you're not supposed to do, whether you pretended to accept this nonsense and then it got to a point where you're like, wait a minute, something is completely wrong. Something has gone completely south. As you heard our caller, Amy, from Princeton, she mentioned it, and it was right. She's like, here is a Democrat who accepted this idea that it was about tolerance. And what we have found now, it was never about tolerance. It was never about tolerance. It was all about tearing down the family, tearing down normalcy, tearing down the concept of having men and women and procreation and families and all these things. And they knew they would not get this past the adults. They wouldn't get it past the adults. So like so many tyrannical governments before us, this has happened in the 1930s in Germany, it's happened in China, it's happened in the Soviet Union. The Soviets and other fascists and communists out there, what do? They go to the kids. The Cuban communists did the same thing. You go to the kids. You separate the kids from their parents. You drive that wedge. It's why there are 6,000 schools now across this country that are hiding the gender identity of children from their parents. And let me take this a step further. It is not a true gender identity. That is a false claim. You don't just identify as one or the other unless you have a mental illness, unless you are suffering from gender dysphoria. You don't just decide I'm going to be a girl tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. There is plumbing and biology, and it all plays in. And you know what? A little something called DNA. And I thought the Democrats and the left and all the wokesters out there told us for how many years now it's all about the science. They rushed to judgment on a vaccine. They rushed to judgment on global warming, all these things. And they said, nope, it's about science. No, it's not. It's about a far left agenda that is designed to create a totalitarian society. Now, that sounds so far-fetched, right? Well, we've watched it happen. We watched it happen in Venezuela. We watched it happen in Cuba. We watched it happen in Russia. We watched it happen in China. How many more examples of fascism do we need to see to know that it's happening right here in America? Now, Riley Gaines' story is one that is being played out in high schools, middle schools, and colleges across the country. God bless that young woman for standing up, because I know many of you have experienced the same thing. Maybe it was just a look and a nod, and they said, you just have to accept this. Sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, your daughter's going to have to go into the 7th grade gym locker and be naked in front of guys. It's not acceptable. And parents have a right to be mad. And know this, that's why they started calling you domestic terrorists in the beginning. That was the whole point. They went after you, they tried to cut you down and discredit your anger. You are right to be angry. Don't let anyone attack you for being mad. You know, there's a song that says there's a time and a place for everything, right? There's a season for everything. There's a time to be happy. There's a time to be really pissed off. This is one of those times. My next guest, he was pretty pissed off for a while. Probably still a little mad, but he's a happy guy because he also stood up for truth and stood up against the grain and stood up against all of the groupthink. You know him. His name is Antonio Sabato Jr., and he was one of the few courageous voices in Hollywood to say, hey, I've had enough of this woke culture. I'm going to stand up and be heard. Antonio, welcome back to Common Ground. Great to see you again.
Great to see you too. Thank you for having me, and thank you to all your listeners and your staff. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
So, Antonio, your story, just to refresh our audience, and then they know you from your Hollywood experience, your acting, but your political experience started when you spoke in 2016 at the Republican National Convention, and you were hammered for that. All of a sudden, the reality set in that you can't say a nice thing about Donald Trump, or we're going to take away your livelihood, and they come after you hard.
Well, I always knew that about Hollywood, because even before that, it was always about being a liberal and really not talk about being a Republican or a conservative. I'm independent right now, so really I make up my own mind, and that's the way it should be like that. But the thing was, I found out really short amount of time about some people, some folks in Hollywood, and how they don't like certain things, and I stood up to that, and I stand up to bullies. I stand up to people that, for things that really don't make any sense anymore. So you just gotta, you've been talking about it the entire show. It's about common sense. It's about, what God created, and we got to start using our brains, because when they do work, they do amazing things.
Let's go back to my last interview, Riley Gaines. I know you were able to catch a little bit of that. What is your initial thought? I mean, you had to see what we all saw. Here's this dude standing up, a failed male swimmer, a loser, and a guy that decided, I'm going to identify as a girl and I'm going to go beat up on the girls and then I'm going to be a champion. I mean, it's so disgusting and disgraceful for me. If it does, to me, I don't know how it can't make people angry. But what was your initial thought when you saw it?
Well, nowadays, losers are winners and winners are losers. Heroes are not more the heroes anymore. Common sense, loving the flag, loving God,
Yeah.
loving family, talking about Jesus Christ every day, praying, things like that. Doing other things for other people, for strangers, give more, talk about love, all those things. But now we're talking about things that make absolutely no sense whatsoever. And biologically, we're just not built that way. Men and women are completely different. And that's the way it should be. That's why God created it to be that way. And whether you believe it in God or not, I really don't care. But that we're different, we're biologically different, scientifically different. So they're trying to make things. But the fact of the matter is they control so much media. And they control the advertisement, and they control everything that goes in between A to Z. And they're able to get the next generation, the children, people that really maybe are bored and they want to try things differently. They don't want to follow certain things, and they go, okay, whatever, this didn't work, so I don't care. Or people they fall for it, sheep, things like that. So right now we have so much information that we can get to, my friend. We have the internet and everything else in between. It's only getting worse, and AI and everything else, and digital currency. These are dangerous times. The Bible talks about this clearly. We're in it right now. And I just think that people out there are fed up, and women should be fed up about what you just discussed, because you're putting a biological man against women. Are you going to put a female in an MMA fight against a male? Are you going to do that? Are you going to have a female boxer fight against a male boxer? Just do that. Do 12 rounds, 3 minutes, with the same weight, and see what happens. It's just biologically we're not built that way.
It wouldn't last 12 rounds, Antonio. It would last a minute and a half, right? It wouldn't even. Yeah, exactly. I'm sure you agree with this. Like we've all been conditioned over the past couple of years to qualify manhood and masculinity. So I don't even say any longer biological male. To me, it's redundant. You're a guy. It's a dude. Like, come on. He's got
whatever you want to call
right?
it. Yeah, I know we're discussing about
yeah,
this,
it's so crazy, right?
Crazy. It is, but it's the way that the program, the system.
Yeah.
I just tell everybody, listen, if you want to live this way, go take California and all these liberal crazy ideas and all this other stuff, and just separate yourself from the rest of the world. Separate yourself from America and leave us alone, and see what happens. You can keep destroying that state and all those beautiful states that you take control of, and just live on your own and separate it. But because us conservatives who want to work for a living, who want to actually put in the time and train and work hard and dedicate themselves and actually devote themselves in this life to something bigger than ourselves and use common sense, we're fed up with this. We're fed up to talk about this. We have serious issues in the world that need to be really fixed. Poverty, homelessness, drugs coming in this country, our open border, our president who's falling apart, if you want to call him a president, and our education system, our children being educated, pornography as young as 6 years old. They've been killing children in the womb all the way up to 9 months. It was allowed, and it's still allowed in some. I mean, it's.
Well, California, New York, and New Jersey, and it's up to birth. Antonio, up to birth.
And you know that people are not growing up, and they're Americans. We're not building this country anymore internally in every single way. Births are down. People are not getting together. We're not having kids anymore. We're not having families. They're doing this purposely.
Yeah, of course.
To stop population in the world, to control it digitally with money and control them with the phone, because, TikTok knows everything about every single kid that's using that thing, right? And so we're back to a place of complete craziness. It's like the Matrix. But I know
it does look like
God
the Matrix.
is going to come in, and he's going to come in strong, better than ever. And Jesus is coming back, which nobody's going to take that away. So exciting times are coming. It's just we're in really
Antonio, let me tell you, if he's coming back anytime soon, he's going to be pissed. I mean, this. Whew.
Well, look what happened last time. He flooded the entire planet. You know what I mean? And look what's going on in California. They're having tornadoes. They're having snow in the valley.
Yeah.
Vegas has snow on the streets. Things are happening because we live in a really, I mean, they think like everything is what you see and what you touch, but there's a spiritual warfare going on. The people that have faith in their veins know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And it's beyond ourselves. And I think to be in that, whether you like it or not, it's exciting because it is a time that we've never seen before.
Oh,
I've never seen times like this. Never.
No, I mean, I'm 53, and I can tell you, I've seen some wild times when I was in school. I mean, during the Reagan years, and where the left and the right did battle. I mean, we had some crazy protests and events happening. I went to school in Boston. Never seen anything like this. Real quick, I just want to do two things. One, I want to thank our sponsor, Epic Financial Strategies, and my good friend, Rob Gill. You can check it all out at moneymindset2023.com. If you're watching right now, you're on Rumble, you're on Instagram, Twitter. You can like and share this if you like what you're hearing and want to see this common sense message. And remember, the show's called Common Ground, and that's for a reason, because there's no reason why normal people in the Democratic Party and normal people in the Republican Party can't come together. This is not about partisan politics. You heard Antonio say that, and I'm going to bring him back in a second, that he's right. He's an independent now. We all have to be independent thinkers. Now, I'm a Republican. I'm a proud Republican, and to some of the Republicans who wish I weren't, I'm not going anywhere. My call-in number is 973-891-4421. 973-891-4421. Antonio, let's go back to an issue that you said. We've heard some members of Congress, and there has been rumblings of something called a national divorce. Now, I think it was Marjorie Taylor Greene that said it first, and then I heard a couple of legislators in Texas start to talk about secession. From my perspective, I look at this and say, I don't like that, because this is our country. And as a New Jerseyan, as a Californian, as a Floridian, I'm thinking, my son lives in Southern California. He's in San Diego. I think one of the most beautiful places on the planet Earth, yet they're overrun by homeless. This probably won't even shock you. So my son, in where he lives, they now have to go to the laundry room to do their laundry as a group of young men, because the homeless are breaking in and stealing their laundry. So they can no longer, in this beautiful area, San Diego State, they can't go into the laundry without having a threat of the homeless and violence. A student got shot the other day, like a couple of months ago. I mean, it's just complete madness. So what are your thoughts on this? I think instead of a national divorce, I think what we need to do is in a sense, and I use this term not in a religious way, but kind of exercise our culture of people that want to tear down the country, that want to do damage to the country, that want to harm young people. I mean, we've got a serious problem with sexual abuse and pedophilia, and these things are being normalized. Mm-hmm. That was a lot, I know. It's not just one question.
No, that's a lot, because there is a lot. It's a lot every single day. Every day we find out more trash, more garbage is put on the media about how to destroy this and how to destroy that. I mean, San Diego was one of the most beautiful cities. California was one of the most beautiful states. But as soon as you get off at the airport, there's homelessness, there's trash, there's complete mayhem, because you have representatives in the government, whether it's local or federal, who should be fired right now. Actually, some of them should go to jail.
Agreed.
Or an asylum. Should be put in asylum on an island somewhere, or actually send them all to Mars, since they believe in going to Mars is so important. Or the moon, since they've been talking about going to the moon, and nobody's ever been to the moon since we've been there. We've been on the moon once.
Right.
All of a sudden, they want to go. I mean, listen, the thing is this. There's people in government, 90% of them should be fired or put into prison, behind bars, throw away the key, and see you later, because they have damaged. These people, human beings, damage other things. If we would have left things the way they were 2 years ago with Trump, things would have been the same. If we would have just kept the same thing going on, it would have just kept the same thing. But they changed everything and made things worse. And that goes for both parties, not just one or the other, because they work together. They see each other in D.C. every single day. I spend really a lot of time in D.C. with these politicians, and they talk a big game. They have the lunches and the dinners, and they get paid to go here, and they get paid to go there, and they get money under the table, and they get the money to the husband that sends the money here. All this illegal stuff you can't even, like, worse than the mafia. The mafia, the people that I've known in Sicily have nothing compared to what they do in D.C.
Well, how are they all millionaires on a $160,000 a year salary?
Exactly. And,
How's that work?
So nobody gets in trouble. Nothing gets done. So the American people, if you're going to complain all day and not do anything about it, it's on you. Because every single time these people vote for these people and they get the same results or worse, it's on the people that live in these cities. New York votes for these people. They get more garbage on the streets of New York City, Manhattan, everywhere else, and people feel unsafe. People are getting in fights, are being robbed in the middle of the day. People are being car hijacked. I mean, listen, you name it. It goes on we see it on our phones, on videos. It's crazy. And kids, the next generation are watching that. All this is being put in our minds. There's so much information. And I say, we got to go back to the basics. We got to start praying more. And we got to start asking Jesus, or whoever you want that is up there, that is bigger than you, to say, come and help me because I am lost.
We need help.
This is crazy. Everything we ever knew is a lie. Everything was ever a lie because we're living in a reality so real, my friend.
Yeah.
So real that we're getting used to seeing this.
Yeah.
And it's not right because
the illusion has become the reality. The
Exactly.
illusion of that you can trust big pharma, the illusion that government is here to help you, all these things. If you have time, Antonio, I'd ask you to hang in there just for a caller Maria from Newark. And anybody else who wants to call, talk to Antonio Spadea Jr., 973-891-4421. Maria from Newark, how are you? Welcome to Common Ground.
Hi, Bill.
How are you?
How are you?
I'm great. How you doing?
I'm great. Hi, Antonio. Thanks for being
Hi,
on
Maria.
again.
Hey, how are you? How you doing?
What's your question, Maria?
I wanted to find out. The question is Grace by Night. I wanted to know when that was going to be featuring because we're looking forward to seeing that.
Oh, thank you for bringing that up. It's a dear project of mine. It's a project that I produced and I started a couple years ago, and we just in post-production putting it together. We don't have a lot of money behind this film, but this film is phenomenal. It actually got awarded at the International Christian Film Festival here in Orlando when the movie wasn't even ready. So it's going to the award shows next month. It's nominated for 8 awards, the most, I think, a motion picture for this year. So we're very fortunate and blessed to have this film. But I'm hoping to release with the rest of the producers and everybody by this summer, if we get a good distribution deal and the movie goes. It should be in the theaters in June, July. But it's a phenomenal story, and I feel very proud to be in it.
That's outstanding. Thank you, Maria. Let's go to Jennifer in Middletown. Good morning or good afternoon, Jennifer. It's hard to break the old habits, Antonio. You know, I'm on the morning 4 hours every day, so everything is morning to me. How you doing, Jennifer?
Hello there. I'm good, Bill Spadea. How are you?
I'm doing great. You are on with Antonio Spadea Jr.
I know. I
Hi.
am so excited to speak to you, Antonio, but I'm so excited
Thank you.
to speak
Hi.
to you too, Bill.
Thank you.
But the two of you together, what a great combo meal. Two humble, amazing patriots on one show. I'm so happy that you guys are together. I appreciate you so much. So my question is to Antonio. I wanted to ask him what his thoughts are on the state of health care in America and down in Florida, how it is down there. I am a nurse, and I am curious to see what his thoughts are on that.
Well, the
Antonio?
healthcare system, as far as the officials who take care of the healthcare system, they're doing a horrible job because they're trying to tell us to do this, but then at the end of the day, it goes completely wrong. I think the people in Florida are really healthy. We live a very healthy lifestyle here. We have the sun, obviously. We have the weather all year long, but we exercise. We go outside. So, boating or whatever. So this is a very healthy place, and the sun on your face is very good for everyone. But I think the healthcare system, I think we need to push the healthcare system in our kids in high schools and junior high schools. We need to bring sports and PE in a different way. You know, this country back in the 50s and the 60s, the PE system and the programs that they had for the young children, the young adults, was really intense. They would have to do the curriculum and the studies, but they would have to work out at least 45 minutes and pull-ups and push-ups and run around the track. All those days are gone. Like high schools and public school systems are saying, you know what, if you don't feel good today, don't do anything, sit around, and it's just not sending the right thing. I think people need to, especially kids, they need to exercise. I think we're the fattest country in the world because we have so much food at our disposal. We eat so much more than we have to. People don't exercise a lot, really, because they're always in stress mode. And I think they need to reverse it. They need to exercise more, eat less, and they will have less stress. That's how it works.
You know, Antonio, it's great advice. Nurse Jen, thank you so much for the call. And Antonio, to that point, we are the fattest country, and part of the reason is we're being poisoned by our own food supply. I mean, the idea that I stopped, actually it was my son who does MMA training and is, peak of health. He about a year ago, he's like, hey, I'm done with seed oils. I've been reading about this. So my wife, Jody, and I were like, okay, Great point. Done. I have to be honest. It was hard to cut out seed oils. Cottonseed oil, soybean oil, we cut it all out. If it's in a box, you probably don't want to eat it.
Well, they're pushing this whole thing about I'm a meat eater. I eat meat.
Of course.
I'm a carnivore. I'm on a carnivore diet. I've been on it for several years, and it changed my life. That's me personally. But they're trying. Back in the day, it was eggs. Eggs were bad for you. Then it was this for you. Now it's milk bad for you. Everything's bad for you. The fact of the matter is, you got to educate yourself to what goes in your body, because it's the only body you got. And it's the only body you got to live in. That's just the way. No matter how many sex changes you have, no matter what woke position you're in, that's the body you got. Yeah. And health-wise, you got to take care of it. And I believe that we got to go back to the basics. Walking, it's very important. Doing things, standing up, doing things, moving, exercising, doing that every day is like brushing your teeth. I've been training my whole life. I'll never stop. And I'm certainly not doing it because I'm an actor or whatever. I'm doing it because my health matters more than any. I can't function unless I push myself every day, 7 days a week. I don't have no breaks. I don't have days off. I don't have no, they call it cheat days. I don't do that. I just train every day, and I live my life as best as I can, because that's the life I got. So you got to push for that.
If you could only narrow it down to one meat, would it be beef, chicken, pork, or lamb?
Beef. Absolutely beef.
My wife says the same thing. I'm torn. I couldn't give up pork. I think bacon, pork loin, pork chops.
Well, I know the difference between my workouts, I know my body in and out so well about how I train, how I push myself. I run, I do a lot of things. If I don't eat that meat, if I don't have that just makes me feel completely different. And I'm a lot stronger. I went vegan. I tried that.
Yeah,
I tried that for almost 30 days, my friend. It was the worst experience of my life. It was awful. It was awful, and I'll never do it again.
Yeah.
I tried it so I can tell you how it is, but for me personally, I wouldn't go that route.
Well, and what you're saying, I love it. I'm a meat eater as well. I think that we need to be encouraging meat consumption, especially in young kids. They need that bioavailable protein, hormones, everything.
Yes.
And they're now, you've probably seen this. I mean, you've got these, I don't know what's to call them. They're propagandists. They're communists, right? They work with the World Health Organization and these other corrupt institutions. They're now pushing bugs. Let's get bug protein. What the hell happened? When did this happen overnight, Antonio? Did I wake up in a bad dream? Where are we?
No, it's just because I'm telling you, the media, and they have people like Robert Downey Jr. who's pushing for this new powder made from bugs and
disgusting.
Things like that. Yeah, it's disgusting. So I wouldn't necessarily, but they push for that. So because in the public, these people have such huge followings. They have millions of people that will do anything for them. So whatever they say, it's right. And then it's not right because they don't know nothing, because they don't do that. Most actors, to tell you the truth, in the entertainment business, they only train when they have to. When they have a project, they get paid a lot, they look great. And then all of a sudden, that project is over 6 months. There you go, wow, what happened to you? Yeah. I thought you were like, oh, no, I just did it for the movie. That's it.
Right.
Because it takes hard work to train every day. Not everybody does it. That's why not a lot of people look a certain way, and a lot of people look overweight, because it's a lot easier to eat and put that weight in your body than train hard and wait and really take your body in first place, because you consider yourself being healthy every day. Yeah. So I tell you, it's the wrong message. The hard work too goes in it too. That people are very lazy. They don't want to put in the work for anything, and that's crazy, because America, made in the USA, was always the place. I moved to this country because of that. Yeah. Because America never gave up. It was like, whatever it takes, we're gonna get it done. We're gonna accomplish the mission. We're gonna be first. There's no second here, and that's what I loved about this country. And all that is kind of going away. Yeah. And we have to bring it back.
We're going to get it back. We're going to fight like hell, and we're going to get it back. I've got time for one more caller. Monica in Somerset. Hey, Monica, welcome to Common Ground. How are you?
Thank you so much. Thanks, Antonio and Bill. Love that you guys are together again. The call the last time was awesome, and I think, thank you guys for both being on Common Ground with all of us. New Jersey definitely needs you. And Antonio, I wanted to just ask you, I had heard recently in terms of General Hospital, I grew up watching that, but Steve Burton, do you know if he refused the the shots, the poison shots, and if he let
Well,
go, as a matter of that.
You know the story with Ingo and the whole situation there, and then they're going through their trials and all that stuff. But I think Steve just walked away. They told him, listen, if you're not going to get vaccinated, we're going to have to let you go. And he walked. He didn't want to cause any problems. He didn't want to be in the media. So, which is crazy to me because these people did some sort. I remember when during COVID, people were having scenes. They were shooting these scenes on Bold and the Beautiful or something. Yeah, it was Bold and the Beautiful. A friend of mine showed it to me where they were kissing mannequins. Like they had a mannequin, they were kissing the mannequin because they didn't want to touch each other or whatever. So and then all of a sudden, only a real wife or the real husband, actor, whatever, could work together. And then the two masks. Then you have to wear the two masks. Then you have to wear the shield and the mask. Listen, let me tell you the most ridiculous stuff I ever seen in the last few years. It looks like a crazy movie, but as far as Steve is concerned, he just walked away, and I think he just didn't want to be in the fight. Because what are you going to do? If ABC lets you go, which is owned by Disney, and they make their own rules, whether you have lawyers, whether you have money, whatever, they're going to walk. And the producer of General Hospital, which, by the way, fans of mine from Jagger, which is a character that I played since 1992, which has never been changed, has only been played by me. This guy's never hired me. And the fans have been sending him letters. They tell me every day, like, go back to. These people are so evil, and they're so like, they have this anger, and they can't hire me because my political views are different, which has got nothing to do with the show. And they're letting this guy go because he's not getting vaccinated, even though the vaccination could actually hurt him or maybe kill the guy.
Could kill him.
They're not responsible.
Right. It's crazy. Antonio, you're right. I mean, you talk about what you had said earlier in the show that we've been lied to. We've been lied to about the food pyramid. I mean, the basic stuff we've been lied to. They lied about the food pyramid. They lied about the shots. They lied about COVID. I mean, they lied. They tried to make up some fantastical story about a bat in a wet market. And, here we know it was engineered. But the reality is even what they engineered was never a problem for healthy people, which is why they had to fudge the numbers. I mean, we had people getting into car accidents, and I think it was New Mexico, the Department of Health finally came out and they said, well, we were actually coding COVID deaths on anyone who was tested positive within 28 days of their death. So I'm like, well, let me get this straight. Somebody dies of a brain aneurysm or somebody gets into a car accident, but they've got a positive COVID test. You get COVID written on the death certificate. So they estimate now, I think even the CDC came out and said they estimate some 70% of the hospitalizations were more of a with COVID than from COVID, and people were hospitalized for something completely different. So we've been lied to. There's no question about these mRNA vaccines. The idea, can't even really call it a vaccine. I mean, this is
it's poison.
It's poison. It's manipulation.
And it was there to make sure that we don't reproduce and we just keep getting shorter and less people on this planet because they're sick of everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. And more people die from this COVID vaccine than anything else, and they know that. And then we're going to keep pushing it. For example, this doctor says, don't take it because it's done this to my patients. And then this other doctor says, well, go and take it. And then they're giving us all these commercials. Take it.
I got to hear it every day.
Is saying, and then the other guy over here saying, don't take it. And then you have a friend who died from it. And then we have a guy who's flying a plane who's actually has a heart attack or whatever, or a guy driving a truck going through houses. You see this stuff every day because he has a heart attack. We have never seen so many heart attacks and people not waking up. And what about all the people in Hollywood who just go to sleep and don't wake up?
Yeah.
We don't know the causes. We don't know the causes. So you're trying to tell me that all these people are dying and they go to sleep and they just don't wake up, and there's nothing strange about this. And it's
Antonio, let's face it, and full disclosure, my wife Jody and I, we got our kids vaccinated when they were children. We followed the guidelines to get them into school. It was for us, it was a hard no on the COVID potion that they created in 10 minutes. But or not, or they've been building it for years, even before the outbreak. But that's a whole other discussion we can have. But, to cover injuries among babies, they came up with sudden infant death syndrome, right? I'd like to now re-explore and reopen that conversation. And to cover the vaccine injuries today, we now have sudden adult death syndrome. What kind of insanity is that? And I've only got a minute or two left with you, but But, give us a final take on the fact that they seem to be changing the narrative to cover their tracks. And unfortunately, still millions of people buy into this garbage.
They buy it every single day. We need to go see that movie Clockwork Orange, where they open the eyes and they just keep people focusing on what's real, what's really going on. So people can see it with their own eyes, because they're not opening their eyes. They're looking down because they're afraid of what's in front of them. So it's a lot easier to look down and go through the crowd, because you don't have to look up to these people and see the reality that you have to deal with. People, we were taken through a roller coaster. We were lied to. A lot of people were lied to. Everybody was lied to. And everybody knows now. And they're keeping this lie like we're forgetting, like it didn't happen. It did happen. And a lot of things happened with it. And you caused the problem. Now that we know it, wake up and don't let that happen again.
Yeah.
So we can learn that from our mistakes. And I think this country, if any country can do it, I think the American people,
Agreed.
when they're forced against the wall, they will fight back.
They're waking up, no doubt about it.
They're waking up.
Antonio, so great to see you. When the movie is out and released, we'd love to do an event with you here in New Jersey, do a premiere, get one of the theaters and bring our folks in from Common Sense Club.
Nice.
Right? Love to have you. So
That'd be great.
That's awesome. So thank you. Great to talk to you as always. Thanks, Antonio. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be in touch very soon.
You too.
Thank
God bless
you.
everybody. Thank you.
That is Antonio Sabato Jr. What a powerful voice he is. And you know what? It's like the conspiracy theories of even 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, they've all been proved true. I remember I remember fighting this in February 2020, when I objected on the air when I was on televised on Fox TV. I had a show, Chasing News, with Bill Spadea. We had a great 7-year run in New York, and we hit that COVID wall, and it was a battle back and forth between management and executives and producers. And at the end of the day, what I was saying in February 2020 proved to be right. I said we shouldn't have canceled March Madness. We should be following. At that moment, COVID was an issue in China. It was an issue in Taiwan. It was an issue in Korea. And the South Koreans came out and said, "Hey, whoa, we're a democratic society. We're not going to shutter people in. We're not going to shelter in place on this." And they were right about that. The Swedes did the exact same thing. Anders Tegnell, who was the chief epidemiologist for Sweden, came out very early. Said, "Guys, I think we're getting this wrong. This panic and drive toward a lockdown is wrong. You're going to end up hurting more people than you help." And for what, a year and a half, all we heard were daily stats. They treated Sweden like it was the Vietnam War, where every night on the news you heard about another dead soldier, another couple of, and that got into people's psyche. Truth is, we can revisit and discuss all of the failings of the various democratic administrations that got us embroiled in Vietnam. That's for another story. But the reality is they did the same thing to try to take down Sweden. And what happened? Their excess deaths are lower than the rest of Europe. The reality that set in was that Sweden got it right and America got it wrong. And within America, I mean, I know a lot of people are crediting Ron DeSantis, and I'm not going to knock Ron because, the governor of Florida has done a very good job bringing Florida back, and I think he's going to be very competitive between him and Donald Trump in 2024. But you can't give him a complete pass. There he was on the tarmac with a double mask on, greeting the president who had no mask on. So let's not create heroes out of politicians. Let's critically analyze the decisions that they made. Ron DeSantis is one of the good ones, in my opinion, mainly because he learned from his mistakes. Guys like Greg Abbott in Texas only learned from his mistakes because the legislature forced him to learn when they went after him and said, we're not going to let you shut this state down. In New Jersey, we had the opposite problem. And the opposite problem was we had an overzealous Democratic governor in Phil Murphy. Still have him. We're still stuck with this guy because of the disaster that was the 2021 Republican challenge to him. Again, you've all heard me rant about that. I don't have to go back into that. But he is still governor. And this guy was able to shut the state down, rule by executive order, mask up your kids, force vaccinations, force testing on nurses and teachers and everybody in between. People lost their jobs, their businesses, their livelihoods. And if you are the family of one of the 8,000 plus seniors that died in our nursing homes, that was all at the hands of Governor Murphy and his health commissioner, Judy Persicilli. So when you look at that, what was different? Well, what was different here is we didn't have a legislature that fought back. We had Democrats that were complicit, and we had Republicans who were weak. So I want to ask you now, you heard Riley Gaines, you heard Antonio Sabato Jr., you've been listening to me every day on the morning show, #1 top audience in the state. You're now watching us on New Jersey, streaming on Roku or Amazon Fire TV. You're watching me on social media. Spread the word, because my message is very simple. We've got to replace the bad actors on both sides of the aisle who led us down this path. This path was deadly and destructive and wholly un-American. Together, we can take New Jersey back. We can take the country back. We can take back our future for our kids and our families. Let's move away from all this talk about a national divorce, all this talk about giving up, all this talk about separating. No. Together as Americans. Remember, 60% of the Democrats are sick and tired of this nonsense of men playing in girls' sports. 81% of Americans overall, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, think there should be some limitation on abortion up to birth. Outrageous. These are not Republican and Democrat issues. These are issues for normal people who practice common sense every day in their job. Every day when they teach their kids, whatever it is, common sense rules the day, and we need to get it back. There are more of us than there are of them. It's time for us to get mobilized, motivated, and go on the attack. So I want you to join me. You can go to the website right now, jointhefight2023.com. Jointhefight2023.com. Join me. I know I'm not alone. I knew that when our market share blew up in the first year of the lockdowns. I knew that when we looked at 4 years in a row, 7 out of 10 New Jersey is moving out instead of moving in. I know we're not alone, but we got to provide that vehicle. We got to provide that strength. And I promise you this, I will continue to be on the trail. I will continue to speak at 3, 4, 5 events a day. I will continue to work 7 days a week. I will continue to broadcast and fight like hell and hold politicians accountable, because someone has to speak for the rest of us. Thank you for joining me. JoinTheFight2023.com. Remember, thank our sponsor, Epic Financial, Rob Gill, one of the greats in this country. Check his website out, because you need to get in a different mindset when it comes to your money and your future. Go to MoneyMindset2023.com, and I'll see you next week.